It's Total War Attila. So it takes place about 400 years after the events of Rome.
400 years after you finished Rome, and 700 years compared to the beginning of Rome. So it's
that's right.
It's a completely new era. It's the Roman with Rome, we essentially were part of the story how Rome developed into a big empire. And with Attila, you will be there as this empire is essentially crumbling and falling, and gives place to the Dark Ages.
Yeah. It's basically at the dawn of the Dark Ages. So it's the empire has grown to a huge size, and you've got it's a period of climate change. Global cooling is occurring. There's migration. All of the barbarian tribes are knocking at the doors of Rome. The walls are crumbling, and it's basically it's a survival strategy. We're calling it the apocalyptic total war. It's basically a case of surviving and seeing how long you can
yes.
basically.
Or if you're playing not as the Romans, then it's the time to just carve out something from Rome and
get a piece of Rome.
Yeah, and set up your own kingdom. Essentially, this is the birth of the medieval Europe. So all the factions you can play, and everything that's there is something that will be found in Europe for the next 1,000 years. So it's quite important.
Yeah.
As Pavel mentioned, this is the apocalyptic total war. So one of our core features that is revolving around destruction, and we essentially show with Attila a much grittier, a much darker side of war. Essentially, the war of attrition is really happening. One of our key features is a dynamic fire and dynamic destruction on the battle map. So you can see it later, but you can burn down whole cities, and those cities essentially, when they are burning, it has an effect on the defenders' morale, and that damage is persistent. So when the settlement is destroyed during a battle, if you load out to the campaign map, the settlement will be destroyed, and if you go back to the next battle, the settlement is destroyed. You have to rebuild it, and you have to invest a lot of time and effort and money to be able to rebuild these settlements.
And that level of detail as well is in the settlements that you see. I mean, it's a whole new period. It is the dawn of the Dark Ages. So the architecture is completely different. The level of detail we've gone into, I think, is far greater than ever before. Especially with with the look of the settlements, the kind of agriculture, the representation of agriculture on the battlefields as well, and that whole destruction kind of theme as well. There's a far greater level of detail in the sieges. We have a new feature called siege escalation, which basically when you besiege a settlement straight away on the campaign and fight the battle, the city is pretty pristine, the walls are strong, and you're going to have a hard time kind of.
Yeah, that was the same in previous Total Wars. You went up to the settlement, you seen the pristine walls, you started the battle, pristine walls, pristine settlement. You late siege for a couple of years, pristine wall, pristine settlements. But with this new feature, this siege escalation, if you keep continuing sieging, then your troops, while you are doing everything else on the campaign, your troops still sapping the walls and maintain the siege. So if you load into that battle like a couple of turns, couple of years later, then you can see that buildings are burning. You can see all the attacker installations around the settlement. Later on, you can even see breaches on the walls, so your assault can be easier if you lay siege for a long time. And meanwhile, you can see the degradation of that settlement. So that gives a new level of detail and new level of immersion, that you see that these sieges or this war is actually happening. It's not nice.
Well, it's kind of, it's very difficult not to go there. I mean, you've got, the Rome 2 explores the glory of Rome and that amazing period. It'd be a shame not to kind of bring it to a close with the next chapter, the medieval period.
Yeah,
it's such a fitting kind of end.
It's not just a closing chapter of the Rome book, but it's the beginning of the Dark Ages. And with this game, we are not just focusing on this time frame, the end bit of the Roman Empire, but you have a chance to go into some years, or even with technologies, go a bit more into the Dark Ages. So you are there when the medieval Europe born. So it's quite Fascinating. Multiplayer-wise, the most important thing is all the new features are supported in multiplayer. So it opens a brand new strategy with this whole battlefield morale in the settlement battles. So you can basically just choose to defeat your enemy with not beating all the units, but just essentially destroying the settlement, and then the defender unit thinks that there's nothing to defend here, so we are just routing of the campaign map. Or the other battle feature we have is the barricades. So you can set up preset barricades and put units on them, and essentially play a kind of tower defense game within your settlement. So you can channel enemy intruders and play them with your settlement layout. So there are a lot of new tools came in with Attila, and they are all available in multiplayer.
Another one worth mentioning, which will be a lot of fun in multiplayer campaign, is the region destruction. You can actually when you can choose to destroy a settlement when you just as before when you raise a settlement, but this time you can basically wipe it from the face of the campaign, so it becomes a completely ruined settlement and the region is completely useless.
So yeah, scorched
as
earth
well as scorched earth tactic basically, but you know, real scorched earth. And at the same time you can choose to abandon a settlement, which means you yourself destroy it completely, pack up and leave a desolate region, which can you know, introduce a new dynamic to the multiplayer campaign.
And I will watch your world burn.